Hey folks, welcome to an IC82 Workshop Wednesday video. We've got a Class 66 here, as you can see. This is a really nice limited edition Class 66 in FastLine livery, sent in by Thomas. So a huge thank you to Thomas for sending this in. However, before I could do a really cool review on it and some excellent running videos, because it's clearly a fantastic freight locomotive, it's had to make a little visit to Crewe Works, and there's probably a sort of glaringly obvious reason why it's had to visit Crewe Works, and so I'm going to hand it over to Craig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is glaringly obvious, even more so if I put that on that side there, because when we took it out of the box, the whole bottom half of the bogie, this plastic part that provides all the detail, just dropped away.
Yes.
And so we had a little look at reattaching it, and ultimately it won't reattach properly. Now the reason being that these plastic underframes are designed to clip on to the actual bogie section using a little metal clip on one side and a little metal clip on the other side, and then the plastic just sort of fastens on one side and clips over the other. So there should be, across here, just across that section there should be a small piece of plastic that's all part of the moulded underframe that then latches over the metal clip, and that metal clip is underneath there at that end of the bogie. Now in this instance it's completely broken away, and you probably won't be able to see it on camera, but up close you can actually see the bits, the remnants of the plastic where it was actually snapped away. My guess, obviously Thomas can correct us in a comment below, but my guess is that when he's come to try and remove this to gain access to all the cogs underneath to be able to lubricate them, he's tried to remove the underframe by just pulling it away, and pulling it a little bit too hard has ultimately caused the plastic to snap off rather than come over the lip. So what we're going to have a little look at in this video is, first of all, how perhaps we should have taken it off by actually getting the bogie out from the locomotive properly and having a look at how we can service these properly in the future, and also how we can actually make some kind of repair so that this can stay on and the model can be run.
Sounds good.
So, the first bit, if we're going to try and take out these bogies, is to actually remove the entire upper body. And in the case of this locomotive, I could see that there's two little screw holes there and two more just hidden under here, and so we need to loosen those screws before we can remove the body. So a little peer inside with a bright light, I can see that it's a crosshead screw, so with a little precision screwdriver inside, okay, so with those 4 screws loosened, I can then carefully prise the body apart with my fingernail just to pull it away from the plastic lugs, and then the whole top section comes away. And because of the Class 66 having a light at the top at the front, we obviously need to be careful because the wiring then goes to the top of the body, so we can't pull completely away. But once we're inside, if I just tilt that towards the camera, you can then see that at this side and this side there are screws that are holding the entire bogie section into place. So if we can loosen those 2 screws, then they'll drop away and we should be able to get better access to the bogies to be able to have a look at how this underframe connects. So again, they're crosshead screws. So a precision screwdriver, and if I lift it now, you can see that both of those bogies are loose.
But it doesn't drop away completely?
It doesn't drop away completely, no, because obviously the wires are connected to the pickups that then come up through the chassis to connect to all the circuitry inside. So it doesn't drop away completely, but it does mean that we can just gain access to the bogie and the underframe a little bit more clearly.
Okay.
Okay, so we've switched around for a slightly different perspective. I've disconnected the wiring plugs from the top so that we can get the whole body on its side. And now if you have a look at this bogie at the side, which is the one where the underframe hadn't come away, you can start to see what the problem is. Because at this side, the plastic clip is breaking away on this side as well. So there's only this little fragment left holding this into place.
I've zoomed it in about as far as I can.
Yeah?
Yes.
So it is quite a poor design in one respect, because it requires you to obviously pull this plastic so the plastic bends to be able to get over this metal lug there.
Mm.
Okay, so this is actually a bit of a poor design, because this plastic clip across the metal lug is designed to be bent so that it can flick off, but then clip back on afterwards. But obviously you're putting the plastic under quite a lot of strain every time you do that. If you do detach the bogie section from the chassis like this though, it would allow you to fit a small flathead screwdriver into, I keep pushing that off because it's partly broken, but if I push the flat blade into the small gap, you can then twist slightly to cause the plastic to bend under your control and allowing you to slip the clip off. That would then allow you to remove the underframe and gain access to the cog mechanism underneath for lubrication.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, in these instances, I might be wrong, but it seems very much like the clips have been pulled and pushed off a little bit too much, and so they have snapped. So we need some way to replace that plastic clip so that it stays onto the bogie. Okay, so I've considered a few different options for how I can glue the body back on. The first one was super glue. So using a small dab of super glue, there's actually a raised track just along the bottom of the bogies there that would meet up with the actual metal piece here. That would work and it would certainly hold them in place, but my worry is that that would be a little too permanent and it would be very difficult to then get the underframe back off, and that would make it hard to lubricate it again in the future. So the option that I've decided to go for is making use of the hot glue gun, which melts the plastic glue into a sort of semi-liquid that you can push and mould around the place where you want it to be, but then it sets back again into a sort of solid plastic. Now you can see on this one here that I've already had a go, and although perhaps a little unsightly from the top, obviously once underneath the locomotive again you'll barely see it, but that small blob of plastic is now enough to hold the underframe to the metal base fairly firmly. But because it's just the type of plastic that it uses in a hot glue gun, you can actually break that off again quite easily with a craft knife and a pair of tweezers, and you'll be able to get that off again and replace it with a new piece of plastic when you're replacing it. So if I show you how I did it on the other side, first of all, because I am going to glue this back in, I'm going to make sure it is lubricated before I put it back. So using our oil pen,
I think that's by Gauge Master.
it is. Just adding a small drop of oil to the cogs and to the axles. And then one end of the underframe clips over the metal lug on that side and pushes into place on that side. It's a little fiddly. And then, using the glue gun, into that small space there, I'm just going to squeeze a few drops, which I know you can't really see very well at the moment, but I'll turn it back in a second. And then using a cocktail stick.
You've got a web.
Yeah. Using a cocktail stick, I'm just going to mould that into the crevices properly to make sure it is properly bonded with the plastic. And you can see, hopefully, already it's starting to set back into its natural colour and go more opaque again. So I've only used a small blob of glue, but by pushing it into the right places and letting it cool back down again, you can see that it's now gone solid again, and that underframe is held in place. Okay, there you go. So the body's reattached and everything's back together. And although it may be a temporary solution, you can see that they are certainly in place and it definitely seems to be holding.